No, seriously, Sega. Where's the camera you so obviously planted on me? What is up, everybody? I am NerdRage36, and it is funny. Last video, I talked about how I'm not ready to talk about Sonic Frontiers yet, and yet here I am talking about Sonic Frontiers. I am still nowhere near done with the game, but yeah, the DLC is kicking my ass, but I still wanted to talk about this game because I have a lot to say. And again, when have I really cared about being relevant? And actually, I do have a lot to say, and this time, I'll actually be able to say it all. Hopefully. I got a new SD card in my camera, so I could just ramble as much as I want. So, yeah, here it is. I'm going to be talking about Sonic Frontiers, so let's get into it. So, starting off, I guess we'll just talk about the story for a bit because it is kind of funny with Sonic. Like it's a mascot platforming series from the 80s and 90s, so a lot of people will just say that the story doesn't really matter, but then those exact same people will say that, like, we'll say when the story is really stupid in certain games. So it is amusing that way. But how does Sonic Frontiers do the story? So it's not like the whole like over-the-top, random as fuck, like almost Final Fantasy type of story, but with Sonic characters just randomly thrown in, like Sonic 06 was. But it's also not the overly pretentious and like weird sense of self-aggrandizing that Sonic Forces was. In my opinion, Sonic Frontiers gets the story just right. So what the story is it starts off with Eggman going to this place called Starfall Island, or Starfall Islands. It's a series of islands, to study this ancient technology that they discovered. And he's researching the technology with this special new program he created called Sage, who is vastly more intelligent than the likes of Metal Sonic, Orbot, and Cubot, but with the ability to like grow said intelligence. So you can probably see where that's going. It's a little predictable, but it works. But by activating the ancient technology, Eggman gets sucked into it. It also releases this weird sort of corruption energy that creates all the enemies that you fight in the game. So releases corruption energy, Eggman gets sucked into it, Sage starts devising ways of keeping Eggman alive and also trying to find a way to get him out of this ancient technology. At the same time, by activating the technology on Starfall Islands, the Chaos Emeralds kind of just get up and fly over to Starfall Islands, and no one really knows why at the time. So Sonic and friends just hop on the tornado and fly over there to see what the heck is going on. While on the islands, Sonic encounters these creatures called the Coco. And it is kind of funny that when they first revealed the Coco in like a trailer or something, I saw people complaining. It's like, why not just use the Chow? Why create whole new creatures instead of just using things that already existed in Sonic lore? The Coco are Chow, because like you get these flashback sequences showing the ancient technology and the Coco in ancient time, and they all have these like water-like bodies just like Chaos. The Coco are basically the Chow's ancestors, and that's honestly really cool to see. So it turns out the Coco originally had the Chaos Emeralds, and they used the Chaos Emeralds' energy to create their technology. And they were able to use that technology to archive their history, their knowledge, but even like metaphysical concepts like their hopes and dreams. And that's how, when Sonic goes into the various bits of technology and accesses the boost formula levels, which I'll talk about that later, they kind of replicate areas he's been to before, because it's kind of like basing off of his memories and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting, a little way of explaining it. I mean, let's be honest, they didn't really need to explain why you're revisiting a lot of iconic locations, or at least iconic imagery for the regular level design, but it's an interesting little tidbit that they threw in. So because all this technology was based off of the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic has the ability to absorb Chaos Emerald energy, it explains how he's able to enter and leave the technology. It's called cyberspace. Pretty sure you already knew that, but it explains how he's able to enter and leave. And Sage decides to use Sonic's ability to absorb energy. Like, she's basically studying Sonic as he's going around doing all this stuff. And using his ability to absorb energy, is able to enter and leave cyberspace on command. So she's trying to figure out how to use that to get Eggman out safely. And decides to use Sonic as basically a holding device for all of the corruption energy that got released when Eggman activated the technology, so that Eggman can leave cyberspace safely. But of course, typical like artificial life form learns what it's like to be alive, because as Sonic is running around the islands helping the Coco and trying to rescue its friends, Sage is observing this, not just studying Sonic's powers and how to use them to save Eggman. So again, kind of predictable, and I mean, good or bad, it's at least an understandable plot. It makes sense, and it works for Sonic, because a lot of the lore drops are done entirely in flashbacks, and honestly, it does a lot of really cool lore drops. Like, again, the Coco originally had the Chaos Emeralds, but on top of that, the Chaos Emeralds are actually not from Sonic's home planet. And neither are the Coco, therefore neither are the Chao. And it's really interesting. So, like, they escaped, like, their home planet being destroyed by this weird corruption energy. And, like, it's also very interesting, this corruption energy. It's very red and black, and its final form, obviously you fight, like, the corruption at the very end. Its final form is some sort of planetoid. So part of me can't help but wonder if it has something to do with Shadow's origin, you know, the whole red and black thing. But it's also very purple. So I also can't help but wonder if it's also connected to the Time Eater from Generations. I mean, heck, while we're at it, why not throw in the Ifrit while we're at it? It's I know it's the wrong color scheme, but I mean, the Ifrit eats Chao in their current form. So try to imagine what kind of a threat it would have been to the Chao's ancestors. Who really knows at this point? But yeah, so like the corruption energy and the Coco's backstory and all this stuff, it's interesting, but that's not the focus of the story. It's just the catalyst. Like, again, you see it all through flashbacks. So the focus is actually on the various characters' reactions to learning all this stuff. And, like, it all works in tandem with the previously established characters. Like, it's, aside from Sage, there's no new characters introduced. It's all the characters we know and their reactions to what went down millions of years ago. Kind of like Sonic Adventure. So, yeah, in a way, Sonic Frontiers does everything a Sonic story should do, in my opinion. But on top of just doing everything a Sonic story should do, it is a little interesting because, like, again, with the lore drops, the Chaos Emeralds aren't from Sonic's home planet. But the reason that the Coco even landed on this home planet was because the Chaos Emeralds were drawn to it because the Master Emerald was native to Sonic's home planet. But the Coco didn't even know it was there. They didn't even know the Master Emerald existed. So it's a little interesting to think about, the Coco had the Chaos Emeralds before even the Echidna did, but there's still a whole lot they don't know about the Chaos Emeralds. So I'm a little interested to see where they go with this. So, like, maybe they might pull a Halo and do, like, these primordial aliens where all this ancient power originated from. Or help, since there's also the Soul Emeralds, and those are off in a completely different dimension, native to a completely different dimension. And there's also, the Hyper Emeralds, and those are locked in another dimension. maybe they might pull a Kingdom Hearts and have like an original universe where all this power came from, like that predates literally everything we know in the Sonic lore. Like that would be a little interesting to see what they might do. Like now that we know the Chaos Emeralds are from another planet, but the Master Emerald was native to Sonic's home planet, is like, where did the emeralds truly come from? Like all of them. And actually, on the subject of the Soul Emeralds and Blaze's home dimension, quick side note, but if the Sonic movies ever get around to adapting the Sonic Rush games, specifically the second one, Tom and Maddie have to be dressed as pirates the entire time. This is not a request. This is a requirement. I mean, come on, wouldn't you? So again, it's really interesting that, like, again, the focus of the story is on all the characters' reactions to all this stuff while still expanding the lore of the universe. It's just, it works. It's just right, in my opinion. Could stand to take itself a smidge less seriously, but again, I think it's just fine. Now, moving on from the story, I mentioned in my Gaming Memories Part 2 video where I talked about becoming a Sonic fan that Sonic Frontiers basically looks like the amalgamation of basically everything I like in the Sonic games, like all mashed into one. So let's go over exactly how it does that sort of thing. Starting off with what I mentioned first, the open hub areas from Sonic Adventure 1. How does Sonic Frontiers stack up to that? Pretty good. Obviously, being a Dreamcast game, these maps are pretty small. I mean, I don't think the combination of all the areas in Sonic Adventure would even equate to a single map from Sonic Frontiers. And that is a good thing. I do think I think for something that's supposed to be running super fast and with a bunch of platforming thrown in, I think an open world design does work. Actually, oh crap, I forgot to grab friggin' Infamous First Light. I think exploring the city, I know the neon powers were in Second Son, but the neon powers running super fast and going up buildings, I think a speedy game is really good for open world design. So, like I said, obviously Sonic Frontiers is a lot bigger than Sonic Adventure. I will say this though, and I'm not going to say Sonic Frontiers feels empty. I know way too many people use that excuse. It's oh, it feels so empty. That people were saying that about the Zelda games that did the open world design. It's everything feels so empty. I'm not going to use that excuse. I will say it is lacking in variety. You got the basic grassy area, then you got a desert, and then you got a volcano area. But then the very last island of the game, it is a little more interesting. It's kind of another grassy area, but it's also covered with flowers, and it's kind of something you would see in a feudal Japanese setting, like a samurai duel or something. And I guess, obviously, the open world design was inspired by Breath of the Wild, so it's these two games mashed together. I guess it's a good thing there's no Karen in the flower fields who wants to knock you out for running through them. But the reason that I was comparing it with Sonic Adventure beyond the obvious is that, again, it's lacking in variety. I'm not saying that a city, a jungle, and then the enemy base is any less generic, but I don't know, it felt more lively. It felt more interesting than just these standard island biomes. And I'm honestly surprised that I'm really surprised that not a lot of other environments were in this game. I'm surprised there wasn't an ice area. Imagine with the open world design having a drift system where maybe you're holding the boost button and then you hold B or something to pin turn and drift. And I think high speed running like in a free-flowing environment would actually be really cool with ice physics, as long as they're not too extreme. And of course, you know me, I am a sucker for jungle levels, and Sonic does jungle levels really good. So I'm surprised that there wasn't a jungle level anywhere in this game. I mean, think about with the Frontiers formula about like it's like swinging on branches, leaping from tree to tree, and grinding on vines. Like, does that not sound really cool in the Sonic Frontiers like gameplay style? Hopefully, in a future game, if they reuse this style, like, please jungle level. I like jungle levels. But one other thing that was a little disappointing with the open world design, and this is both a good and a bad thing. So, like I said with Sonic Adventure, the three main open areas, they're nothing too spectacular. Kind of just as generic as Frontiers, but a little more unique. But one thing they had going for them was their interconnectivity. Yeah, there was loading screens between each one, but you could see where each one was connected, and you can go back and forth between them at will. Sonic Frontiers, meanwhile, the islands are very segmented. Like, you can warp between islands, but they're not connected. Again, it's islands, so I get that, but it would have been cool if there was ways of traveling between them more organically. Like, even if there were loading screens like in Sonic Adventure, I would not mind. It's just having them a little more interconnected would have been interesting. But overall, the open world design for Sonic Frontiers was great. It works and opens the door to a lot more interesting like environments and challenges with like boosting at full speed and Sonic's signature platforming. It definitely does the open design of Adventure 1. It does it justice, but I feel like there could be a lot more added in a future game. Now, as for the second thing I brought up in how they amalgamated all my favorite things about the Sonic franchise into one game, the boost formula levels from Sonic Generations, and also Sonic Colors, I guess you can talk about that as well. But it's a much more obvious parallel with Sonic Generations. And it did them basically as well as you could have expected. Like the boost formula levels from Colors and Generations, and I mean, you could argue Forces. It's at least like the structure has at least consistently been great with the boost formula levels. But on top of that, it did something I never would have expected. It creates these little missions that you complete within the boost formula levels, like little, obviously, like one of them is get to the end of the stage. But then there are other things like collect all the red rings, which I've never actively gone out of my way to collect all the red rings, but there's actually a reason to do it this time in this game. So you collect all the red rings. You also complete it collecting a certain number of rings, so it incentivizes you to not get hit. But also, good or bad thing is up for debate, but one of the other missions in doing the boost formula levels in Sonic Frontiers is achieving an S rank time. And it actually does show you like what time is necessary to get S rank. So that's a good thing. It's no guesswork. But what these missions do, they give you keys. So like you get 4 missions to complete in a boost formula level, and each one gives you a key. What are the keys for? Unlocking the Chaos Emeralds, because the Chaos Emeralds are like sealed in these vaults, and you need keys to open them. And you get keys by doing boost formula levels and completing all the different challenges within the boost formula levels. Maybe this is just me, but that made me think of Mario. You know, completing challenges in the basic levels and then using the rewards you get from those challenges to unlock later things. It is kind of like Mario in that way. I can't explain it. It's just crazy. Like, a boost formula level with, like, a boost formula level with challenges to complete to unlock like special items that further your progress in the game. How do you do that? Again, it's like, was this just for me? And that's not the last Mario comparison that I'll be talking about. Trust me, it's a little weird later on, but that is honestly really, really cool. But there is a slight issue with it. There isn't really a ton of... I mean, the missions themselves are cool, although having one of them be complete the level is a little cheap. So having realistically 3 missions to complete is a little meh. Honestly, I feel like they really should have done a bit more with the optional content, with not just in the game itself, but within the boost formula levels. Like, as I was playing it, I couldn't help but think of possible other missions to do within the levels. Like, imagine doing like things like ghost races, or kill X number of enemies in the stage before reaching the end, or finding hidden Coco or Chow, or like basically just finding hidden animals and stuff in the stage, and you need to collect a certain number of them or all of them before reaching the end. Like, that would be like just giving you more to do in the levels, because at the end of the day, you really only need like 1 or 2 run-throughs of a stage to complete all the missions. Besides level 1-2, that has one of the strictest S rank requirements. And what's weird is almost none of the other levels are that bad. It was literally the second level in the game going insane with one of the mission requirements, which is kind of cool, but it's like, why there? Why put it there of all places? But it was interesting, and it did actually really get me geared up to actually to complete it, to actually get the level perfect. And honestly, that is a cool incentive. But again, I feel like there should have been more mission types. And actually, what's funny is some of the mission types that I was thinking of were added in DLC levels, though not quite. There was a ghost race in one of the DLC levels, and you do find you do have a mission where you need to find the critters. Although they use the 3 standard critter designs. It was like a bird, a bear, and a seal. It's the ones you see in Sonic Dash, of all things. I mean, they're really like pulling from every possible Sonic game now that I think about it. But it's not quite collecting them and getting to the end of the stage. It's finding them. They jump onto Sonic's back. You can't double jump anymore with them on your back. You can't boost with them on your back. And if you hit a spring, then they fall off and you got to go get them again. So it's a little weird. It's not quite what I was looking for. But like, I don't know, some other, like certain other games, like some of the optional missions in Rivals 2 and, I forgot another. Sonic Advance 3, you have to look for hidden Chow throughout the game. Same thing in this. You look for hidden Chow in certain levels or certain side missions. So I think having like that would have been a little more interesting, especially because it would give you chances to explore more of the optional paths or destroy more destructible environments or boxes and stuff, like find all the Chow or Coco and reach the end. Of course, kill X number of enemies is a pretty standard idea, but it works for Sonic, especially because you can chain homing attacks together. Like, it's just something that, like, I think because of the nature of Sonic's homing attack, it's always going to be satisfying to kill an enemy, even if it slows you down slightly. But if you're really good at it, you can bounce from one to the other and and use it to keep the momentum going. So having kill X number of enemies be a mission would definitely be interesting. But what I think would have been really cool is, so you got the 4 basic missions, and then you add those other 2, kill X number of enemies and find hidden Coco throughout the game. And then you leave the level, but then that activates a hidden 7th mission. where it's the ghost race, and you gotta beat the ghost race. Kind of like how in Mario games, the 7th star, the 100 coin star, is usually a secret your first time through. So that would be interesting. That would have been an interesting inclusion. Like I said, there were some things like that in the DLC, but again, it's not quite what I was looking for. But here's the thing. I would have just been fine with standard boost formula levels, because again, the boost formula is a ton of fun. Having these extra missions, even as simple as they are, and using the missions for collectible-based progression is mind-blowing. Like, I never would have expected. Again, it's like you're combining Sonic with Mario. It's crazy. Like, I would have never expected that. One last thing I will say about the boost formula levels is that I just wish there were more of them. Like, I understand that the open world is the new focus, and like running around and exploring is the draw. But I think just having a few more levels per area, like more cyberspace gates and more boost formula levels within those gates, and like I said, more missions within those boost formula levels would balance out a lot more. Like, I'm not saying the game as it is unbalanced, but like it would have just been there would have just been a lot more. Like, something that you're going to hear me say a lot in this video is what Sonic Frontiers did was cool. I just wish there was more of it. So yeah, more boost formula levels. I would have absolutely loved that. The next thing I mentioned with how Sonic Frontiers almost felt like an amalgamation of everything I loved about Sonic, the exploration, side quests, and material grinding from Rush Adventure. Exploration, yes, obviously. With the frickin' Breath of the Wild inspiration, obviously it was going to have a lot of exploration. Material grinding, a little more interesting than I was expecting, because on top of rings, you also find the Coco, like little Coco hidden throughout. Kind of actually like what I was saying with the boost formula levels, how I wished you could find hidden Coco in those, kind of like you can find hidden Chow in other Sonic games. But those were not in the levels. Those were in the open world, and you could find them, and you could actually bring them to other Coco in exchange for raising your stats. Yes, Sonic has stats in this game, like max speed, max ring capacity, and on top of that, you could also find these special seeds that raise your attack and defense. Almost like a Sonic RPG. Not quite that extensive, although there is a skill tree, and I do really like skill trees, but again, it's not quite that extensive. I managed to fill out the skill tree like before the 3rd island. It's kind of like, it was a little underwhelming, but it was still cool. I just wish, again, I wish there was more. Like, I wish there would have been more, not just, I mean, the stats stuff, that worked out pretty well. That worked out perfectly, honestly. It worked out great. But the skill trees, skill tree, that's the thing. I kind of wish there were more skill trees. Like, one for speed, like increasing like the different moves you can pull off while you're running, or increasing your max, stats for increasing max speed, but I guess increase handling and like maybe wall running, or like some form of abilities that contribute to speed. But then another skill tree for platforming, like maybe like I like how you start with the double jump, and I'll talk about that in another segment, but maybe like you can unlock more jumps, like parkour skills, like some way of segmenting Sonic's platforming skills into a skill tree without making you feel gimped from the start. That would take a little bit of trial and error, but I'm sure it's possible. And then the kind of skill tree that we got in the main game is Sonic's combat skills, and I'll talk about that later. But the material grinding was a lot more than I was ever expecting. And I'm still not done talking about that, because the primary collectible you're finding, besides rings, are these things called memory tokens. and you use memory tokens to activate cutscenes with other characters. Some of these being like main story events that push the plot forward, but others are just optional conversations. Here's the thing, though. I was expecting all those optional conversations to include side quests. They don't. Weird thing, though. There are a couple of main story events that you activate with memory tokens that give you an extra mission to do. So, it's not even an extra mission, it's just part of the progression. Whereas the other ones, the side stories, just give you a cutscene where like characters talk about stuff. Again, it's the character's reaction to the story unfolding. I feel like those should have been reversed. Like, obviously, the side stories should have like the cutscenes and characters talking, but I feel like the side stories should also have just the extra missions, like random stuff to do in the world connected to talking to the characters. And like, it would have given the memory tokens more value, because the memory tokens are insanely fun to collect, especially because like there are certain ones that are like, man, how do I get that one? Okay, I'm gonna run up this wall, I'm gonna grind on this rail, I'm gonna jump halfway through, I'm gonna hit this boost ring and then boost in the other. It really tests Sonic's core platforming to get some of these memory tokens. In fact, actually, the memory token, like, I know that it was like, oh, Sonic meets Breath of the Wild, but with the memory tokens being scattered throughout and all the different challenges you would have to do to get them, it's also like Mario Odyssey with all the moons scattered throughout. It's like, again, I was not expecting the mix of like more Mario combinations, and it's like, it works perfectly for Sonic, and it was a ton of fun. I just wish there was more to do with the memory tokens. Again, like, if the side stories had actual side quests connected to them, the memory tokens, on top of just being fun to collect, would have had more value, and there would have been much more to do in the game. Again, I'm not saying the game felt empty, it just didn't feel like there was like a ton to do with them outside of the main story quests or main story events. It feels like it should have been reversed. Like, the main story stuff with the memory tokens should just be a cutscene, whereas the side stories, cutscene, but also an extra mission to do. Like, maybe they just didn't think about it that way, but again, it just felt like there was room for proper side quests to do, like in Rush Adventure, but they just didn't do that for some reason. It's a little disappointing, but whatever. It was still cool, and again, like, the Mario Odyssey comparison is insane. Like, the memory tokens are fun to collect, just like the moons are, and there's not like some big ba-da-dun-dun-dun-dun. Like, you just collect them, and that keeps the momentum going. And like I said, the rest of the material grinding is definitely really cool, just like it is in Rush Adventure. I just wish there were actual side quests to do. The next thing I mentioned was the tighter controls and revamped combat system from Lost World. Now, tighter controls, yes. So, as many have pointed out from the beginning, Sonic starts off like at a very basic speed. Like, actually, I would say, unless, like, when you're not boosting, like, you hold the trigger to boost. When you're not boosting, you're running about as fast as Sonic would when you are at full speed in Lost World. But then when you are boosting, you're going just about slightly under the max speed of Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, which that may be seen as a bad thing, but with the open world design, you want a little more control. Sonic Frontiers finds the perfect middle ground between the various speeds that you've gotten in Sonic games before. And it works. It really does. Again, tighter controls. You start off with the double jump. I said there probably should be like a skill tree for platforming, but having the double jump and being able to boost in midair and clinging to walls, that is like, again, that works so well for Sonic. Again, like, running up walls and the double jump is a thing you do in Sonic Lost World, which makes the game a lot tighter and you can save yourself a lot better. Difference is in Frontiers, the running up walls thing, unless it's like a hill or a mountain that's at just the right angle, the only walls you can like climb up are a special type of wall. However, I will admit that makes sense when it comes to, again, open world design, because like, although now that I think about it, when I did compare with Infamous First Light, it wasn't like running up buildings in that game didn't break anything. And honestly, I think having the ability to run up walls in like Station Square or something a little more complicated than the Frontiers open world design would be a ton of fun. But again, there's probably something I'm not considering. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I do think the tighter controls and just like the freedom of movement already is fantastic. So that's fine. Now, one of the other things I mentioned with the comparison to Sonic Lost World is a revamped combat system. And that's not quite what it is in Frontiers. So in Sonic Lost World, you have your standard single homing attack and spin dash attack. But other things you can do is you can kick an enemy into another and destroy both of them. But you can also target multiple enemies at once with a single homing attack and like rapidly go between them all in one go. Or if they're all lined up, you like chain attack them all in a single go, keeping the momentum of Sonic's core platforming while still having a somewhat emphasis on the combat. In Sonic Frontiers, it's not quite like that. There's a lot of like new flashier combat and combat animations, which does work for Sonic's character. I mean, come on. Would you not expect Sonic to like kick an enemy in the face and then like do a crazy backflip and then elbow it or something like that? Yeah, the flashy animations do work for Sonic. And like, again, you have your standard homing attack, and you can actually like rapid punch after the first homing attack. So it's like boom, 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 boom. And that's cool, although admittedly, it makes me think more of Knuckles than Sonic. But like the flashiness, that's definitely Sonic. But also, weird thing, there's a lot of I don't even know how to say this. There's a lot of projectile attacks in Sonic Frontiers, and actually the projectile attacks kind of make me think of some of the moves he pulls off when you fight against him, when you're playing as Blaze in Sonic Rush and you fight against Sonic. Some of those attacks kind of remind me of the projectile attacks in Sonic Frontiers, but it's got a lot of like blue energy stuff, and obviously, so a lot of the projectile attacks, they're cool and they work. And like the combat is interesting, and it works for the open design. Like, you're just kind of running around, and like a group of enemies shows up, like, and then you take them out. But then there was something that I didn't really notice until I tried playing the DLC. Like I said, the DLC has been kicking my ass because I reached the first tower, and the first tower gives you a special challenge. Defeat a certain number of enemies under a time limit, and your stats have been reduced. This is where, in my opinion, the combat is like shows its weakness. Sonic has never been about like fighting enemies one-on-one. Like, there have been like other ways of killing enemies that do work for Sonic. Like I said, some of the Lost World combat definitely works because it keeps the momentum going. But in Frontiers, like, I didn't even notice it in the base game because, again, you're just kind of running around this open world. It doesn't feel like fighting a group of enemies really stops the momentum. And again, a lot of the flashiness definitely works. But when you're locked in an arena and you have to, like, when you're locked in an arena under a time limit and you're not as strong as you were in the overworld, that's when it feels kind of out of place. And it's really weird because a combat challenge for Sonic doesn't even sound like something that would be that hard to do. But instead of a fixed arena, it should be like you're in a hallway and you got to chain attack a bunch of enemies within a time limit, basically testing your ability to time your attacks and never stop, basically get the right momentum the right rhythm going, like keep the momentum going. But that's not what this is. It's your standard like horde enemy encounter, and it doesn't quite work. I mean, it's fine in the overworld when you're really not like restricted from anything, but these straight up challenges, it really feels out of place when it comes to Sonic, honestly. Like, that's why I said the DLC was kicking my ass, and it's like, I can respect the challenge, and I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people that enjoyed those tower challenges, but it just didn't feel quite right, and I knew that this was going to take me much longer than I would have wanted it to, and I started losing interest. I still really like Sonic Frontiers, but it's all this extra stuff that kind of doesn't feel quite right that the DLC introduced. What am I trying to say? It's this... I think they were just trying to do a bit too much. The base game, I think, did everything almost perfectly. Again, everything the base game did was great, and I just want more of it. But the DLC with a lot... and there were a lot of cool challenges, a lot of cool platforming challenges and overworld stuff, but the combat challenges, that's where I definitely see this didn't need to be there. Although, weirdly enough, I honestly think, like, I could try again, but it's not a priority. Like, I actually did almost beat that first tower challenge. I just was missing one enemy before the time limit ran out. Again, it was really kicking my ass. But it's like, okay, this is doable. I know this is doable, but I got other stuff to do. So for the time being, the Sonic Frontiers DLC is just going to be like, it's just going to basically be on the back burner, kind of like that 80 plus level final post-game dungeon in White Knight Chronicles 2. It's going to be kind of like that. It's like, if I really want to test myself, I'll hop back in if I really want to. Although with Sonic Frontiers, it's a little more manageable because I was playing on my Steam Deck. So if I really wanted to, I'll just like, whoop. All right, let me try one more time. Couldn't do it? All right, I'll try later. See, like I said, I'm probably going to try it like gradually whenever I have the free time or something. And I don't know, maybe that's just the part of me that it felt immeasurable satisfaction for beating Mega Man for the first time. It's like, hurt me more, I guess. But no, I can see where they were going with it. I just don't think it quite worked out. Although, I can't even be mad because the DLC was free. Like that's the reason I even bought it on Steam, is because it was like 2023, free DLC, free DLC, free DLC. So, like, okay, yeah, it's hard, it's kicking my ass, and it doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the game, but I can't even be mad at it. And again, there's like the mega masochist in me that kind of wants to really cut my teeth on it. But it's not a priority. Who knows, maybe if I get the equipment to do live streaming, you'll get to watch me struggle in vain to beat the Sonic Frontiers DLC campaign. And now moving on to the Zelda comparison. I mean, I've already made a few references here and there, but yeah, again, it's like Sonic meets Breath of the Wild. Everyone was saying that back in 2022. And yeah, it is kind of like that. Weird thing is, though, some of the puzzle design is very generic. Like, some things that just kind of feel weird that, like, don't quite make a whole lot of sense as a quote-unquote puzzle. Like, there's one where you're just kind of running on a treadmill. Like, okay, I guess that makes sense for Sonic. But then there's also one where you're basically playing jump rope, which, that's a little weird. Then there's the one puzzle... Actually, I forgot to mention this in the combat section, but there is one puzzle where you need to parry the platypus. But you need to parry an attack back at something. And that's the thing I forgot to bring up in the combat section, a parry mechanic, which it's a little weird. First of all, you click both shoulder buttons to parry, and that's just clunky. And parrying doesn't quite feel right in this sort of game. Like, I understand, like, Breath of the Wild and Dark Souls type combat was the thing for a while, and kind of still is in a lot of ways, but it doesn't quite work in the context of Sonic. And here's what makes it even really weirder. Sonic has parried attacks in other games before. Usually, like, if a missile gets launched at him, he kicks it back at the opponent, but it's usually done through a homing attack or a regular jump attack. So if you really wanted to have a parry mechanic, you could have just done it the way Sonic's always done it. Especially with that one bird enemy that you need to parry. Like, how hard would it have been to replace the laser with a homing missile? Like, come on. Plus, it wouldn't have broken the momentum. Anyway, I should have said that in the combat section. But now I'm on to the puzzle section. So, puzzles in Sonic Frontiers. A little weird. Like I said, the treadmill, the jump rope, the parrying thing. But some of them also do work. Admittedly, one of the ones I actually did like is just straight up the switch puzzle from Mario Galaxy, like hitting all these like blocks in the right sequence, lighting up the platform. That's fine. It doesn't quite fit with Sonic, but it's still fun to do. There were, however, two puzzle types that I think were perfect for Sonic's gameplay. And that is one where you basically need to reach a certain platform in a certain time, but it's not like... some of them are like start from here, go to here, but others are like up in like different areas, and like you need to find just the right sequence of grind rails and platforming and boost pads just to get there in time, and that definitely works. Another one is these holographic square type things that you need to go through them in the correct sequence. And honestly, I feel like if you were to mix the hologram squares with reaching that one platform, and maybe along the way through the hologram squares, you light up those cubes in a sequence. It's like if you combined those three into a single puzzle, that would have actually worked out much better than all the other individual puzzles. Like, something that really complements Sonic's core platforming. The puzzles are fine. They're just... I don't know. They felt like... A few of them felt like afterthoughts. And I really feel like there's something that they could have done to really make the puzzle design fit with Sonic's core gameplay. Now, another thing that Sonic and Frontiers has in common with Breath of the Wild is the Blood Moon, or in this case, the Starfall event. It respawns all the enemies. All right. But the Starfall event also kind of feels like the space-time distortions in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Again, I was not expecting this kind of parallel. But what the Starfall events also do is they spawn a bunch of stars, and you collect them to get certain items. Kind of also contributing to the material grinding in that I mentioned in the Rush Adventure segment. However, it's a little weird because in the Starfall events for the main game, you only get fishing tokens. Actually, I forgot to bring that up. You do a fishing mini game in this one, kind of actually, not even kind of, but it is straight up Big the Cat. But it's not as detailed, and it's also not as frustrating as Big's levels in Sonic Adventure. It's just a simple It's just a simple quick time event. And you also can use the fishing minigame to get rings, cocos, and seeds. So it actually contributes to to improving Sonic. So that works out. That works really well. Weird thing is, though, in the base game, Starfall events only get you fishing tokens. I think I already brought that up. But it only gets you fishing tokens, and in the DLC, you don't get fishing tokens from Starfall events, and instead, those Starfall events in the DLC will spawn the cocos and the seeds. Again, that feels like it should have been reversed, or even like it should have just been like that from the start. Like, seriously, being able to collect more cocos and seeds during the base game, like with Starfall events, that would have worked perfectly. It's just weird that like all you get in the base game from Starfall events are the fishing tokens. I mean, again, you can use the fishing tokens to get more cocos and seeds, but I don't know. It feels like they could have just cut out the middleman, and they did end up cutting out the middleman with the DLC. But seriously, combining the blood moons with the time-space distortions, again, I was not expecting to find this many parallels between Sonic Frontiers and other games that I absolutely love. It is insane, and again, Sega, where the fuck is the camera? There is a parallel with another Sonic game, one I was not expecting to see a parallel between, like, when the game was revealed and all this stuff about it, like, I thought it was just like a culmination of 4 out of my top 5 Sonic games mixed with Breath of the Wild. But then there's all this Mario stuff, this weird Mario parallel, and this one reference to a Pokemon game. But then there was another Sonic game that, intentional or not, it actually seemed like there was sort of a reference to it, and that is Sonic Rivals. Now, the reason I say that is, so Sonic Rivals gameplay, there's a bit of a fisheye lens effect to it, and not quite to the extent of the Sonic Extreme prototype, which, quick side note, but with that comparison, like Sonic Extreme fisheye lens, Sonic Rivals fisheye lens, and the fact that I have I don't know if I've mentioned it on camera, but I often compare Sonic Rivals to Mario 3D Land in the sense that they hybridized the 2D and 3D gameplay formulas of their respective series, and the fact that Mario 3D Land was originally what Mario 64 was envisioned to be. Does anyone else think we could have gotten something like Sonic Rivals on the Saturn? I don't know. It's just something I've always thought about, but that is a completely different subject. It's just something that popped in my head. Anyway, so the fisheye lens effect is because a lot of Sonic Rivals level design kind of wraps around a big central point, like kind of extra wide. Like, it uses a 2.5D effect, like, but it goes around a big central point. And in Sonic Frontiers, there is a one underground section in the third island that kind of reminds me of one of those like Sonic Rivals-esque level designs. Although there's not a whole lot of grind rails. There's a lot of grind rails in Sonic Rivals, but it did kind of feel a little bit like that. But on top of that, there's also a bunch of towers on the fourth island in the base game and in the DLC. And you have a whole bunch of challenges, like platforming challenges, to scale the towers. And those platforming challenges do remind me a lot of Sonic Rivals, because especially they are covered in grind rails. Although the towers are very skinny, so it's a Rivals-type level design condensed. And if you were to combine the towers with that one underground section of the fourth island, of the third island, it would basically be a Sonic Rivals level. Now again, that's a parallel. But here's the weird thing, and here's why I am convinced Sega was stalking me for this. When I was first playing Sonic Rivals, like when I was marathoning the series and I was playing Sonic Rivals for the first time, I thought to myself, man, it would be really cool if there was like a Sonic Adventure type game where you like run around an open hub area, but then you gotta climb these like pillars of the earth type thing, and those pillars were done up in a Sonic Rivals type level design. Sega, if you really are stalking me, can you finish the Panzer Dragoon 2 remake? Like, seriously, like, all this other stuff I mentioned, like, combining all my favorite aspects of the Sonic games into a single, like, game, like, I could imagine other people having the same thoughts as me, and, like, it's not, like, this game wasn't specifically made for me, even though it feels like that. And, yeah, the towers and that one underground section is basically what I was thinking of, separated, but the parallel is still there. Like, who else would have thought that? Like, Pillars of the Earth, Sonic Rivals level design going up. It's crazy. Like, seriously, what the It's like, am I being Truman Showed? What is going on? But also, if they do end up doing, like, Primordial Aliens or Original Universe concept for the next game, if they decide to do another Frontiers-type game, Pillars of the Earth kind of thing would be much more fitting. So, again, it's like, are we going to see something like that? Is Sega taking notes? Who knows? Maybe. I feel like I'm being stalked. I've been saying that way too many times, but again, like, what else am I supposed to say? These comparisons are way too coincidental. But overall, that is basically everything I have to say. This is probably going to be a super long video. I don't know how long, but that's basically everything I had to talk about with Sonic Frontiers. I got a lot of criticisms about it, yes, and again, the DLC is really kicking my ass. It's not what I would have... it's not quite what I would have wanted out of... Like, the DLC specifically, with a lot of the combat challenge focus, is not exactly what I would have wanted out of a Sonic game. But literally everything else about Sonic Frontiers... This is basically my dream Sonic game. This is everything I would have ever wanted in a Sonic game, to the point that most of my criticisms really only stem from, I just want more. Basically, everything you guys did with this game, do it again, but more. And here's the best thing. The fact that Sonic Frontiers is essentially my dream Sonic game, it hasn't ruined my ability to enjoy the other games in the series at all. Like, I'm currently replaying through Sonic Lost World, because I've also got that on my Steam Deck, and I'm still enjoying myself. Like, it's not, like, Sonic Frontiers has not replaced any other game in the series, and heck, with that weird parallel with Sonic Rivals, I've already got a craving to play this again. I mean, it's a short game. I can blast through it in, like, a day, so, like, yeah, it's something I can hop into at any time. Like, that is honestly really cool that, like, yes, this is my dream Sonic game, but it hasn't ruined the rest of the series for me. In fact, it's only just made my desire to play the series again that much better. Like, there's so many games in this franchise that I absolutely love and would replay constantly. And Sonic Frontiers not only is the culmination of everything I like about Sonic, but it also just reminded me of how much I want to replay a lot of my favorites in the series. So, yeah, like, that's all I have to say about all this. Like, again, all I have to say, I don't even know how long this is going to be, but seriously, Sonic Frontiers is a great freaking game. Like, I can't say anything else about it. So, thank you, Alpha Omega Sin, for convincing me to give the Little Blue Blur a fair shot. Like, actually let me, like, realize that there were good games in the Sonic franchise. Thank you, Sega, for stalking me in order to genetically engineer my quintessential Sonic game. And thank you, Sonic the Hedgehog itself, for going from a franchise that I had been convinced from years of internet memes was absolute trash and had no good game in the bunch, to being one of my all-time favorites now. I have nothing else to say. I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I know there are plenty of bad games out there, but everything I just listed off, especially this beast right here, actually, how it started, how it's going. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my favorite franchises, and I couldn't be more grateful for having this game in my possession now. I am NerdRage36. Gotta go fast.